All right, so today you are going to be following with me while we take some notes. For my period 1, I will be here, but for period 2, I have some other new teacher stuff I have to take care of, so I can't be in the classroom. So I thought we'd just start off the week easy and do some copy paste sort of notes. Like you just follow along, listen, hopefully gain something, and if not, we'll go over it tomorrow. But you should have a piece of paper that looks like this. Not the bottom part, but this first part where half of it is like main ideas, questions, notes, and then the other half are like practice. So we're gonna focus on this side first. And we're just going to introduce some vocabulary because we are in geometry, and geometry is a very, very heavy vocabulary subject. So we're going to constantly be talking about new words that maybe you've seen or maybe you've never heard of before, and the right way to write them, which is called notation. So bear with me as we go through this and get through all the cut and paste like vocab stuff before we get into like geometry. So first, I want to give you an example of each of these. So for a point, a real life example, and I would just write this right here under point, would be like a point on a map. So we could just say like green belt. So that can be our point example, and I'll just write like example up here. And then for a line, our example can just be eternity. And these will make sense later. I just want to write these down first. And then lastly, for plane, your real life example is going to be paper. Cool. I think that's all I have now. We could, actually, we'll create one right here. For this one, we could do a 4-way stop. Okay. Oop. Okay. So, I'm going to actually turn this on so it doesn't happen again. Okay. So, now to get into the actual notes. So, a point... For this first bullet point, I want you to write, a point is a location. And it has no size or shape. You're always going to use a capital letter when naming a point. So remember when I said we're going to learn how to write these things, which is another way to say it is notation. So the example of how you'll see it written in like math problems would be like point, and this one is called point A, so we're going to use the capital letter A to call it point A. Cool. Next we have line. So a line is actually made up of points. So a line is like bigger than a point. So point came first, and then on a line we'll have many, many, many points. Any 2 points form a line. So over here you can see in this picture we have 2 points, right? We have this one and this one, and those make up our line. A line has no thickness or width. Okay, and then we have this question is asking us to name a line by any 2 points on the line or a lowercase strip letter. So with this line, the way we're going to write this is, there's actually a few ways. So the first way that you might see most commonly is x, y. So remember our 2 points, I'm just going to re-highlight those, are x and y. And then on top of x and y, I want you to draw this little line with 2 arrows at the ends, going forever and ever and ever. Another way to write it would just be line xy. Remember, these are all lowercase, right? So you can hear it mentioned line xy or written xy with that little line on top. And then lastly, this specific line can be called line n, because I'm just going to highlight n right here and n right here. The name of this line is n, but you could also refer to it as line xy because those are the points on the line. Cool. So then we have the plane, and a plane is a flat surface made up of points. So that's where our example of paper comes in. So it's like a piece of paper, like it's flat, but there are points on it, on that piece of paper. So any 3 points make up a plane. A plane extends indefinitely in all directions. So what this specific bullet point means that it goes in all directions forever and ever and ever, if that makes sense. So indefinitely means there's no end. So how do we name this? You can name a plane by any 3 non-collinear points on the plane, or an uppercase script letter. You might be wondering, what the heck is a non-collinear point? So if you go back up to line, there are 2 things we did not go over. So we have collinear points, and those are points that lie on the same line. So that would be like x and y. So I'm just going to write the little example of x, y with our line above it. We also have non-collinear points. In non-collinear points, those points do not lie on the same line. So in this specific example of line n, we don't have an example, and it has to be at least 3 points. But if we go back to plane, where it says, name a plane by any 3 non-collinear points on the plane, or an uppercase script letter, we can actually look at our points, and as you can see, they don't really lie on a line, right? There's no line drawn from one point to another. It's just they're kind of all over the place in the plane. So we would name this as plane KJL, because you see those are our 3 points. They're non-collinear because they're not on the same line. They're not on a line at all. They're just in a plane. So that is plane KJL. Another way to write that would just be plane P, because there is a P right here, right? And that's telling us that the name of this plane is P. The same way our name of our line was N. Sorry, just highlight. Okay. Hopefully you're with me so far. This is a lot of vocab, but promise that we'll get to practice it on the other page. We also have non-coplanar points and coplanar points. So let me highlight those so we can see that. So for coplanar points, that means that points that lie on the same plane. So that would be like K, J, and L. So I'm going to write that right here. K, J, L. And then non-coplanar points are points that do not lie on the same plane, and that must be at least 4 points. So we don't have a specific example for that with a picture, but just remember that coplanar means that they're on the same plane, like the same piece of paper, and then non-coplanar points means that they are not on the same piece of paper. Okay. Lastly, we have intersecting lines and planes. And for this, I just had the example of a 4-way stop because as you see with this first image right here, it kind of looks like when you were at basically a 4-way stop sign. So there's 4 different streets and everyone stopped and you kind of all have to go when it's your turn. And there's like 2 roads that cross each other. So this in geometry is when we have intersecting lines and they intersect at a point. Do y'all see this right here? This is the point that they intersect at. There is another way that we have intersecting lines, but that is actually with planes. So as you see, this kind of looks like we have a standing up piece of paper. Let me highlight so I can tell you all what we're talking about. So in this example, we have a piece of paper that's like standing up and a piece of paper that's like horizontal. So that means 2 planes are intersecting, and the point where they intersect is actually a line, which you guys can see as line K. You all see that? This line right here. That is where these 2 planes are intersecting. So 2 lines intersect at a point, which is point P. And then 2 planes intersect at a line. Okay. So I want you to take a quick second, maybe pause right here to fill in whatever you are missing, and then we'll move on to the practice. Okay, going on to the practice, we're gonna do some of these together, and some of them I want you to fill in on your own and then check your work. So we have number 1. So it says use the diagram to the right. So we're looking at this right here, and we're gonna name the following. So we're just naming things. So we're gonna name 4 collinear points. So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna find, okay, collinear points. That means points that lie on the same line. Cool. So I'm going back to my picture here, and we're gonna find 4 collinear points. On what line in here do I see 4 points that are on the same exact line? So the point I see is right here on this line, and that would be points. And remember, we're using all capital here for points H, N, K, and I. Do you see how they're all on the same line? Both other lines only have 3 points on them. Okay. Next question is what line or a line that contains point M? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find point M. I'll be like, all right, what line is this lying on? The line I see it's lying on is this one. And if you see right here, that tells us what the name of the line is. You know, that lowercase letter next to the line, and that would be line P. Okay. I'm gonna skip C. I'm gonna go to D. So we're now on D right here. And we have another name for line Q. So we are looking at line Q right here. So what is another name for line Q? I'm going to go back to line and see how can we name them. So we have line XY, line N, and then that XY with the arrows on top. So maybe we can look here and look at line Q and see, okay, so we need to find 2 points and figure out how to name that. So remember, we're going to be using this little thing. And the 2 points I'm going to choose are J and K. And I want you to pause and write the other 2 ways you can name this line. What other 2 combination of points can we use? Okay. I hope that you wrote K and L and J and L. Make sure you're writing that line above the letters and that the letters are capital. That is very, very important. All right, and then for E, the intersection of lines P and R. Okay, let's see. P, R. What is that intersecting point? Remember, lines intersect with a point. What is the point that is being intersected? I'm going to look, and I see this one right in the middle of both of them. That's the point that they both share. So I'm going to say point N. And then I want you to take a second and just do C on your own. And I'll put up the answer in a second. All right, I hope you got line R. Cool. So I want you to take a little bit of more time to yourself and pause the video and do 2, 3, and 4 on your own or with the people around you. I will put up the answers in a second, but I really want you to take this time, practice, and do it yourself because you need to get this down. This is just the beginning of using vocab and figuring out how to name points and lines and what coplanar and collinear means. So really try to understand the answers and understand and check your work. Okay? So take a second. Not a second. Take more than that. Take as much time as you need in class to finish this. And then when you are done with this, if you go back to the Canvas assignment, you'll see that for extra practice, there is a Delta Math 10-question assignment. So yeah, so take a second, pause the video, and when you come back, I will be filling this in. Okay, I'm just gonna fill in the points here, not the points, the answers here, and you can hopefully check your work. Okay, and if you are still watching, I would assume we had some issues with these 3 questions because I did also have a little bit of an issue with them. So for C, the intersection of plane R, so this whole piece of paper, and plane Z, V, Y. Hold on, let me put that in a different color. So the intersection of those would be V and Y because they share those 2 points. So in plane R, there's 4 points, right? V, Y, X, W. In plane Z, V, Y, that green one I just drew, of the 4 points that plane R contains, V and Y are the ones they share. How many planes appear in the figure? So I said 5, so we have 2 drawn right here. I'm going to try to put them all in different colors. Then we have 3. Then we have 4. And then this one is hard to see, but we also have 5. So we have all 4 of the sides of this pyramid shape. And then we have the piece of paper at the bottom, so that's 5. And then we're just going to look at point W right here for question E. And it says, how many planes contain point W? So we have R, that's 1. And then we have that pink one, that's 2. And then we have this yellow one in the front, that's 3. 3 planes contain that point. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. And hopefully the Delta math assignment is doable. If not, I know it's the first time we're doing anything math related, so please give me feedback when I come back.